and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This video is another story time, and as per usual, it has to do with dating. So I'm gonna get right into it. This is a double date fail, and it's been some years. It was some years back, like back before online dating apps and before Instagram was even really popular. And I'm from Toronto, so there was like a site called T.Wire, which it was around the same time as like High Five and stuff. I know, way back. And I guess you could call it like, well, you know, us being young, we did use it as a dating site. And one of my friends actually came to me one day and she was like, oh, hey, I met this guy off of there. We've been talking. But she was like, you know, she doesn't really feel comfortable going on a date by herself. So she's like, if I wanted to come because he said he has a friend. So I was like, okay, sure. Like, what do I have to lose? We were gonna go out. It was like early, like late afternoon, early evening anyways. And I was like, I feel more comfortable with her being there. She obviously felt more comfortable with me being there. So I was like, let's go. And she was like, oh yeah, by the way, he lives in Brampton, which for those of you that don't know Toronto, it's a suburb not too far from Toronto, and definitely from where we were living on the outer skirts of Toronto. You can technically get to Brampton in like less than 15 minutes unless the person lives like way deep into Brampton, which this person kind of did. But she also did say he was gonna pick us up. So I was like, oh, okay. And you know, being young and having someone that drives and comes to pick you up, I was like, well, sign me up. And you know, at the time, being from Toronto, we heard that rich people live in Brampton because Brampton is all houses. And we were living in a high rise. So yeah, so I was like, okay, and he has a car. So came to pick us up. She sat in the front seat with the guy that she was on the date with, the driver, and then I was in the back with the friend. And just from when I got in, I was just like, okay, I don't know if I'm feeling this anymore. Like, it was just very awkward. There wasn't much talking going on. And I guess it's just because it's weird. Like, you just met somebody online, right? And I think he was asking me some questions, my date. And he was friendly. Like, I responded. And then he said, I don't know if she had mentioned it before, but basically we were going to his house and we were going to chill at his house. And I was like, oh, great. What are we gonna do at his house? So, you know, I'm thinking, okay, maybe he's gonna order food, something, like, you know, and I'm like, it's early afternoon. Like, we literally left around 4 o'clock. So I'm like, it's not gonna be any funny business, you know? And he had stopped to get gas. And he stopped to get gas. And I remember he came out the driver's side. And I was looking and I was like, oh, he looks a little short. And I know my friend, like, she turned from the front seat and she looked at me and gave me like these eyes. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, he's just a little short. And his friend, I guess, wanted like just me and him to be in the car. Like, the sun was still up, so I don't even understand. Maybe he just wanted, maybe he thought I'd feel more comfortable if it was just me and him. But he said to my friend, he's like, hey, why don't you go help him pump gas? You know, hint, hint. So she was like, okay. So she gets out, my friend gets out, and she goes around to pump. And she is like towering over him. And I was like, oh my goodness, no. I'm like, you know, he is short. And my friend, at the time, she says that she was like 5'6", 5'7", which I guess is a little bit taller than average height for women, I guess. I don't even know what average height is. But she was like literally towering over him. So I was like, oh boy. And, you know, us being young, obviously that is something, even if he was older, height, you know, it's height. I think even for me being like 5'2", he was probably not even that much taller than me, if taller than me. So I already knew right there, I'm like, okay, this probably is not gonna work out, but I'm like, we're already here. And he drove all that way to come pick us up. So we get to his house and we were chilling in the basement. And I was just sitting there after a while and I'm just like, you know what? I'm like, I don't even want to be here. I'm like, I'm just here to support a friend because they weren't very good hosts. I don't even remember if he offered us anything to drink. Definitely didn't get any food. And I think they wanted to smoke or something. And I'm not a smoker, so I think that they were a little bit upset about that, and neither is my friend. So I think they were a little bit upset that we weren't smokers. So we were kind of just sitting there, and then he put on a movie or a show or something. So I guess him and my friend were trying to get like cozy or cuddly, but she was kind of like, eh. And then I guess when his friend saw that, his friend came and tried to like put his arm around me, and I was just like, no, like this isn't the kind of date I had in mind. This is just, I'm just not feeling it. So I saw there was a computer there, so I was like, can I just use the computer? And they were like, yeah. So I hopped on the computer, and I was just on there, just, you know, just browsing around on Facebook, whatever. And yeah, so I think I was just on there. I don't remember what they were watching in the background. And then we heard like the keys upstairs, like to the front door. So all of a sudden he became like super panicked. I guess my friend's date, that's his house, became like super panicked. And I was like, you know, we're grown, aren't we? Like, you didn't tell your mom like you were gonna have friends over. And of course she came down the stairs as she was like, and she was, you know, a West Indian Caribbean mother, so she was not too pleased. And I just remember being there, like I was sitting in the computer chair, and I think I swiveled around to look, because I was just like, oh, like we're not supposed to be here. I thought you would have cleared that with your mother. And I don't know if maybe he lost track of time, or she came home earlier than she normally does, but you know. And I'll never forget, she literally said, tell your friends to skip up, no, to step up and skip out. And I was like, step up and skip out? I'm like, I've never heard that before. She's like, skip up. She's like, step up, skip out, skip out, skip out. And she's just telling us to skip out. And I was just like, oh my goodness. So we picked up our stuff and went out to the car. And I don't know if he was like trying to reason with her. Now, mind you, like, you know, he wasn't like a grown 30-year-old. He, I think at the time might have been like 20, no older than 21. So, you know, you're at your mother's house, you're still young, but you know, you're a little bit older, you're grown, as we would have said back then. So me, my friend, and his friend were like standing outside by the car, because I'm like, you know, what happens now? Like, do we go somewhere else? Like, do we go home? And I don't know if his mother was like giving him an earful in there. I have no idea. But he came out and he was not very happy, and he just like got in the car and like slammed the door. So we're like, okay, like we get the hint. We got in the car, and I remember he was trying to put like a CD into his CD player, because mind you, this is some years back, trying to put a CD into the CD player. And I guess he was just so like frustrated and upset that like the CD just wasn't, like, he just kept missing to put it in. And then he got upset and just like threw the CD out the window. This isn't like, it wasn't funny at the time. I mean, it was, but we weren't laughing, of course. But even thinking about it now, because it's just like his day went from like bad to progressively worse, right? So his mom just kind of ruined everything. So I can't remember if we even ended up finding a CD to put in there, but the drive back, and at this point it's rush hour, so it took like half an hour, I want to say, to get back. The drive back was pretty silent. And yeah, I remember after he dropped us off, we were like, thanks, and you know, we just kind of took off. And I remember, me and my friend to this day, we still laugh about it, and we just said we can't wait till, like, you know, we can come home and tell, well, actually, I mean, it would be mean, but in a joking way, tell our kids that, hey, step up and skip out, or skip up and step out, whatever it was that she said. But yeah, that's the fail. Like, there's no more to it. It's not some big long story. It was the fact that you know, he had this afternoon, evening planned. I don't know what else he had in mind. I don't know how far he thought it was gonna go, but whatever he had in mind, his mother definitely stopped that. Me and my friend at the time, being how we were, it definitely wouldn't have gotten more past, I'd even say maybe a kiss might have been pushing it, because we were very, what's the word? Very careful with who we showed affection to back then. So again, I don't know what he had in mind, but needless to say, she was done with going online and finding people online after that, because for her it was just a horrible experience. But for me, you know, if you go back and watch some of my other story times, you'll see that was probably just the beginning for me, because I was like, ooh, you can find people online. I was like, oh, this is very interesting, because that was my first experience. I had never talked to someone online that I didn't know. Like, you know, back in like high school and stuff, we use MSN and, like I said, high five. But this was the first time it was like meeting someone that like I don't know at all and wasn't introduced to. Like in person. So I found that to be intriguing. So I went the opposite direction that she did, and I just ventured off into this world of online dating, and that's where all my story times, or most of my story times, come from. So that is the story. That was it. That was a double date fail, unfortunately. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I will be posting more story times, so make sure you subscribe so that you're notified when I do.